You're listening to Straight from the Hat with Ben Vaughn.
Every day starts with a broken heart. I must be too sensitive for this world. Well, I know it ain't right to cry every night. I must be too sensitive for this world.
He's had a career filled with twists and turns as a performer, songwriter, composer for film and TV, and record producer. For Ben Vaughn, the best part of the journey has been the colorful characters he's encountered along the way. His friend Laura Pocadello, who works for Sun Records in Nashville, wrote the names of those characters down and placed them in a hat. Each episode, she'll select names at random and let Ben relive the stories. No pre-planning, no filter. Just telling it like it was. Straight from the hat.
Hi, Ben.
Hello, Laura. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you out there in the desert?
Well, I'm waiting for the propane guy to show up, if you really must know.
Classic.
And that's a big deal out here, propane. So, yeah, I'm here in parts unknown, USA, waiting for the propane guy. And while I'm waiting for him, let's do this.
Let's do it. We can ask the propane guy, we can wait if he's got an opinion on this next name. Do you want to do that?
No. I do not. You've never met my propane guy.
I have not. Okay, here we go. Into the hat. Let's pull out a name here. Okay, this next name is... Ooh, this one's not a person, actually. This one is a show. That 70s Show.
Ah, That 70s Show. What a great experience it was to work on that. I was the composer on it, in case anyone listening is not aware of that. I did the music for that. And it was the same people who did Third Rock came up with that 70s Show. So I was working on Third Rock from the Sun, and they decided that they were going to create a second show. And they were calling it Teenage Wasteland. And it was a sitcom about teenagers in the 70s. Kind of like Happy Days, but in the 70s, but with weed and underage drinking. So it was assumed that I was the composer. They never asked me, now that I think about it. I remember my agent saying, so have they officially asked you? I said, well, I'm at every meeting. And
I'm doing it.
I'm at every table reading. They go, well, Business Affairs hasn't contacted us yet. And I said, well, I don't know what to say. They're assuming I'm the composer. And so I was in on the ground floor of that show, like really on the ground floor, because I was already a trusted member of the Third Rock family of writers.
Which, how many seasons of Third Rock would have happened before that 70s show started?
Probably two seasons, and I had just finished working on a show called Men Behaving Badly, which only lasted a season and a half for pretty good reasons. For pretty good reasons. So I was free to do a second show at that moment. So I think Third Rock was in season 2 or wrapping it up or something when we did the pilot for that 70s show, which was going to be on Fox, which was a new network at that time. And because they were familiar with me, they wanted me to be around for all of the planning and meetings and table reads and discussions about where the show should go. So I got a chance to see all of those actors, not audition, but do the first very, very awkward table reads. And I remember distinctly that they almost fired Ashton Kutcher because he wasn't cutting it. And then they realized they weren't giving him good enough lines or a good enough character, so they decided that he should be more like Vinnie Barbarino on Welcome Back, Kotter, and it worked. It totally worked. He needed to be pretty stupid, like a puppy dog, and it worked. Instantly, he was the right actor. It was pretty interesting to watch that. So they shot the pilot, showed it to Fox. Fox said yes and bought an entire first season. And or the front 13, they call it, and then there's the back 9, because back then it was like 22 episodes per season.
Which means what? You do, like, you batch them when you work on them that way, or What does that mean?
It means that they've committed to airing 13 episodes. They're going to buy 13 episodes. And if the ratings are good, then they order the back 9 to be produced.
Got it.
So you're always waiting, like, to find out if you got the back 9, and then you're waiting to find out if you're being picked up for a second season. There's a lot of anxiety in the world of television because you're based on the ratings, and the money coming in is based on advertisers wanting their product to be advertised during the show with the best ratings. So it's a very neurotic business.
Well, and ratings are every week too, right? So it can change. It can fluctuate quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like being a baseball player. You know, your stats are public. Everyone knows. You know.
Yeah.
So everyone's nervous. Understandably, you know, neurosis is everywhere. You know, and a lot of stress. So Fox picks it up. So now we need a theme. So Bonnie and Terry Turner, who were the co-creators of this show with Mark Brazil, who I just ran into recently on the street in Santa Monica. It was really weird. I hadn't seen him in a long time. They created this show, and they screened the pilot for a group of people, not telling them what they were going to see. They would invite people. This is you know, a real Hollywood thing where you have these, I guess they call them previews, or
like a focus group
kind of thing where they fill a theater with people and they don't tell them what they're going to see, and they'll show them 3 different sitcoms. And at the time, the show was called Teenage Wasteland. So they screened the 3 shows, and when the audience is coming out, they were asked, which one did you like best? And more than one person said that 70s show.
Oh, that's fun.
And that's how the name came up. We were like, well, that's it. I mean, they just handed it to us on a platter. There's the name.
Yeah.
That 70s show. So that's how that happened, actually.
That's cool.
Yeah, so Fox picked it up. They bought the first 13 episodes, and we were in production. And it was time to shoot the sequence for the theme. And Bonnie and Terry Turner, they worked with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey on Wayne's World, on Saturday Night Live, and they co-wrote the 2 movies. And the Bohemian Rhapsody thing, that was Bonnie and Terry Turner who came up with that, because their favorite thing in the whole world is people singing really loud to songs they love in cars. And so they said, we want to do that again. We need a song. So we had this late night meeting about what the song was going to be, because they had booked, I think it was a Tuesday, and on Friday they were shooting the scene, and we didn't have the song yet. And so they had a car that was going to be on a flatbed truck up in the valley with the actors in it, the kids, you know, in the car, singing along, and they had the whole shoot booked, but we didn't have the song yet. So we had this emergency meeting, and they had this supervisor, this guy who had been around forever. He was hired by everybody. You could name any song, and he would know, any recording, and he would know if it was available or not and how much you would have to pay. He was just a veteran. And he had like a countenance, kind of like an undertaker or an executioner or something. So we would get excited because they were going, well, how about 18 by Alice Cooper? And he goes, well, you'll never get it for domestic. You might be able to get it for foreign and syndication, but not for domestic. No, not available. They're like, oh, okay, Young Americans by Bowie. And he's like, you're kidding me. Okay, next, I forget what other songs. Well, actually, we won't get fooled again by The Who. And he goes, never going to happen, never going to happen. Not for in perpetuity, at least, only for first run. He just had a negative answer, an accurate answer,
I was going to say that's a realistic answer, yeah.
Totally realistic. And so our hopes are being dashed left and right. And I'm bummed out because they didn't ask me to write a theme,
Yeah.
But they said it's got to be an existing song. Otherwise, why would the kids be singing to it? So no original composition from you. And I was like, okay, I get that. That makes total sense, And finally, we ran out of songs. And I raised my hand and I said, does it have to be a hit record from the 70s, or can it be a song that should have been a hit in the 70s? And they go, doesn't matter as long as it's a great song for them to sing along to, and it actually came from the 70s. So I said to one of the writers, Bill Martin, he was a Big Star nut. I said, do you have a Big Star CD in your office? And he goes, I do. Yeah. And I go, run over and get it right now and bring the boombox in. So we played In the Street for the creators of the show, and they went nuts over it. They went nuts over it. And they said, boy, if we can do a re-record of this where it sounds more like Who's Next. Because one of the problems with Big Star is they sounded kind of like the 60s, even though it was the 70s, you know?
Yeah, totally.
You know,
well, were they even aware of that track before you played it?
No, they had never heard of it. They had no idea. And so the music supervisor goes, well, before you get too excited, the only way this is going to happen is if someone in here knows the writer of this song. So I raised my hand again. I said, I actually do. And I can call him right now. So they said, please do. So I called Alex, and luckily he was home. He answers his phone. He's like, hey, man, you know, Alex, you know, the most laid back.
And this is Alex Chilton.
Alex Chilton, yeah, Big Star. He was, he co-wrote that song with Chris Bell, and it came out in 1973, and it should have been a hit, and it wasn't. So I said to Alex, you know how you say that In the Street should have been a hit in the 70s? And he goes, yeah. And I go, I have an opportunity here for it to be a hit in the 70s. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I said,
I've built a time machine.
I said, yeah, I am working on a sitcom right now that takes place in the 70s, and they are interested in using In the Street as the theme song, but we need to clear the publishing like immediately. We're not going to use the master, so we don't have to worry about that, but we want to re-record it, and we need your publisher, whoever publishes that. And it turns out it was Elmo Irving. Somehow the Ardent catalog had ended up with Elmo Irving. So he called Elmo Irving, and like the music supervisor approached Elmo Irving, but he said they'd take forever to get back to you, so you got to have the writer call. And Alex called and got through and said, I really want this to happen. And so we had it. And I booked time to record the theme. I played bass and guitar on it, and I hired this drummer named Mike. I can't remember his last name. And we banged it out with no singer. I didn't have a singer, and they're shooting on Friday. And by now it's Wednesday or Thursday. And I went to this bar. A friend of mine, Dusty Wakeman, who is a pretty legendary guy in the music business. He's
a producer, right?
Yeah, Lucinda Williams and people like that. Yeah, he owned a studio. He invited me to come see him play, and I went there just to get a break from all this to a bar, and he had a great singer on stage, like a guy who could really belt it out. So I hired him, and he was a metal dude. Todd Griffin, a really great guy, and but a real metal dude. Like, hey man, what's happening, man? You know, like really the real deal. You know, probably his whole life was spent screaming in clubs, like Robert Plant. You know, and he had the hair, and he was Toddzilla. He goes, man, you're dealing with Toddzilla now. You know, he was awesome. Really funny guy, and could really do it. I mean, he could really belt it out like Steve Marriott or anybody, you know. So we had the backing track, and I took the backing track up to the studio lot, and I booked the room where we usually do mix down, and then all of the executives of Carsey Warner, everyone showed up to watch me produce him sing this theme. And he nailed it in like one take. So then Bonnie and Terry Turner were like, ooh, let's get him to sing stuff, weird things like, ooh, baby, baby, you know, like just various things, a cappella. And so I would, push the talk back thing and go, hey, Todd, sing, woman, I need your love, or I forget what it was. And they kept throwing these funny things, And finally, they said, tell him to sing anything he wants. So I pushed the button. I go, anything you want. And he goes, anything you want. He was in the groove, man. He was totally in the groove. But that was a great show to work on. That was a hit right away. It was a really cool show to work on. And the cool thing about it was, I didn't have a successful music career in the 70s, but now I did. It was great. It was great.
Well, there's so many different types of music in the 70s that are all represented in that show too, that it had to have been pretty fun to try all those different styles, doing some hard rock stuff, and then you have a talk box trying to do a Frampton thing. You're all over the place with the music on that show. Yeah,
whenever you see the kids in the basement getting high, that's my music in the background, and it'll sound like, drug music, basically.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
I would always play guitar and bass, and then I had a drummer, and I would just write a bunch of these cues, and we would bang them out, and we would just be laughing because we went for every cliche And
Right.
And Bonnie and Terry Turner loved cowbell, obviously. So, because they're the ones that created that scene on Saturday Night Live with Will Ferrell and the cowbell.
More cowbell.
Yeah. So every time I put sometimes I would put cowbell in there just to make them laugh, even if it was inappropriate.
Just for
fun. Yeah. And then season 2, we redid the theme with Cheap Trick. So I got a chance to co-produce Cheap Trick. Julian Raymond was producing him at the time. So we co-produced Cheap Trick redoing the theme, which was really cool to work with Cheap Trick because I'm a huge fan, and such a fan that I knew that Bunny Carlos chain smoked while he played drums. So I brought this really fancy ashtray, on a stand to put next to his drum kit, and I brought it in and he goes, "Oh man, I hate to tell you, but I quit smoking." But working with them was really great. And the show, that 70s show, there was a British version of it. I don't know if you know about this, called Days Like These.
No.
Probably 1999, around there. I don't know how long it lasted, but it was a British version of that 70s show. And then, because that 70s show was so popular, Fox said, "We want an offshoot show, like a spin-off." And nobody could come up with a good idea for a spin-off, so everybody said no. And then they came back and said, "Well, how about if we give you this much money?" And they're like, "No, we don't have any ideas, none." And then finally they came back, and the number was so big, everyone said, "Yes, sure. We suddenly have a great idea."
We'll come up with something, yeah.
which was that 80s show, which only ran for about 9 episodes. I worked on that. I did the music for that, but it didn't fly. And now, just recently, Netflix did
that 90s show.
That 90s show, and they contacted me, and I said, "You should just get Dave Grohl or somebody, It's the 90s. I have no feel for the 90s music, I'm the wrong guy." And they did pretty much the next best thing. They got the guitar player from Smashing Pumpkins to do the music for that. But I've never seen it. It came and went. I think it's already been canceled, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you could really top that 70s show. It's like trying to take Happy Days and put that in the 90s or something. That era was so funny. There was no end to what you could make fun of, because metal and disco and the clothing and the furniture and the cars, everything. There were so many great things, not to just make fun of, but to pay tribute to on that show.
Yeah, it's like goofy through and through, where it's like, even if there's not a punchline, there's kind of something to laugh at the whole time. Yeah,
a great show to work on.
All right, this is back towards where I'm at in Nashville, and is Ween adjacent. I feel like many of the people we might be talking about might be Ween adjacent, but Pig Robbins.
Pig Robbins. Boy, how many records? Moody River by Pat Boone, that great piano part, but he's also, on Patsy Cline. It goes on and on and on,
He's on everything. I think one of my favorite things, I'm a big Connie Smith fan, and she called him her musical soulmate. He played on nearly everything she did.
That makes sense. Yeah. He was able to add that secret sauce that would take a record right up the charts, right up into the top 10 because of what his counter melodies. He's on so many great records, and he was blind, so he had to be led into the studio to play. And I luckily was able to hire him for the Ween country album. And now, before that record, for anyone who is familiar, you already know, but if you're not familiar, there are some blue lyrics on that record, some scatological things. And so I checked with everybody to make sure they were cool with it. And I had a couple people, Danny Davis. I wanted to have the Danny Davis Nashville Brass do, I wanted him to come do an arrangement and have like some 2 trumpets playing in unison or something like, I just wanted him to arrange some, because they were like the Nashville Tijuana Brass.
His sound, is classic.
Yeah, and I really wanted it. So I sent the 2 songs. I talked to Danny Davis on the phone, and he said, "Well, send me the songs." And I sent him the songs, and he never called me back. And every time I called him, it went to his machine. Like I'm still waiting for that call. I mean, he's not even alive anymore, but I'm still waiting for him to call back. So I got his answer. There were a couple other people. One guy said, well, I'm a deacon in my church, so I just can't. I forget who that was. But we ended up with Pig Robbins. He said yes. And the day of the session, Gene Chrisman, the drummer, brought in Pig, which I had trouble calling him Pig, because his name is Hargus Robbins.
Yeah.
But Pig Robbins is I just felt like I was insulting the guy. And so I called him Mr. Pig, I think, at one point.
That's worse.
Yeah, I turned out, yeah. Hey, I was scrambling, and I wasn't comfortable with the name Pig for anyone, And so he's introduced to me, and he goes, and Pig shakes my hand. And he goes, so I hear we got some country motherfuckers in here today. And I was like, yes, we do. And he goes, well, then let's get to business. And he goes over to the piano, and he loved the songs. He loved the Ween songs. He was tickled pink. It was great working with Pig Robbins. And he did a really cool kind of rockabilly record called Save It under Mel Robbins. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it's a really cool kind of rockabilly, Jerry Lee kind of thing.
I don't know that I have. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, Mel Robbins is the name he uses on it. And just an amazing player. And you can tell it's him, when you're listening to country music from, 1962 through 72.
Yeah.
It's him.
Oh yeah. And it's very satisfying to hear his playing, and then you check the credit and you're like, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be him. It couldn't be anyone else. And he's very tough to imitate too. A lot of people tried, but you can really tell when it's him. That's great.
Yeah, he had this thing he did with octaves a lot, like a low and a high note at the same time, and these kind of cascading things that when he did it, he's one of those guys that the record gets 70% better because of that guy being on it.
And he's not really in the way ever, too.
No, he listens. And what the best ones always do, they're actually better listeners than they are players, because when they don't play or when they reduce the amount of notes, the singer gets the spotlight,
Okay, up next we have, and I'm curious where this one leads, Allen Ginsberg.
Allen Ginsberg. I went to a reading by him. This would be like 1973, maybe 1974, and I was invited to a rap session afterwards. It wasn't a what do they call it? Give me a second.
A rap battle?
No, no, it's definitely not it definitely was not a rap battle. Reception. Most times when there's an event, they have a reception.
Right.
Well, in 1974, when it's Allen Ginsberg and it's a bunch of college students, it's called a rap session. And I was invited. I was hanging around this college. I was a drop-in student back then. I never went to college, but back then they encouraged drop-ins where someone could just come in and be part of a class. It was encouraged as part of some kind of promotion of free education or I don't know what. And I hung around this campus of Glassboro State College in Jersey, and they had Allen Ginsberg and Ken Kesey, who I also met. Another all-night rap session with Ken, and that was all night. He really, I don't know what he was on, but it went on until the sun came up. But Allen Ginsberg, it was pretty amazing to meet him. I mean, he was Allen Ginsberg, and he was flirting with me as Allen Ginsberg would have done.
Well, sure.
Yeah. And it was really, really cool. And then I saw him again perform at the Walt Whitman Center for the Arts and Humanities, which is a building in Camden. I don't know if you know this, but Walt Whitman lived in Camden, and his grave is there, and his house is still there too.
Right. Yeah.
And Camden, New Jersey, that's where I'm from. And the old library at 2nd and Cooper, they turned it into the Walt Whitman Center for the Arts and Humanities, and they had poets from all over the world. We used to call it the International House of Poetry, the IHOP.
The IHOP.
And Ginsberg performed there with Peter Orlovsky, playing, and he was playing this he was playing guitar and Ginsberg was playing his harmonium, and I met him again. It was really cool to meet those guys. I also met William Burroughs. Like I met, this is the Beat Generation.
Right.
And I met 3 of these guys, which is pretty amazing. And William Burroughs, that was a weird one because the Ben Vaughn combo in 1987 decided that we wanted to become a Midwest band because we really wanted to conquer the Midwest and really draw people in places like Omaha and, Springfield, Missouri and all that. We thought it would be really cool to be a heartland favorite out there. There was money to be made.
The foreign flyover lands, yeah. Yeah,
there was money to be made, and there was also just really enthusiastic music fans who were kind of starved because they were not on the coast,
Right.
And so we rented a house in Lawrence, Kansas for 1 month in 1987, and we played every Wednesday night at this club called The Bottleneck, and we would play The Bottleneck on Wednesday, and then we would go to Omaha and Kansas City and maybe Wichita, and then come back, and then we would go out the next weekend and do Columbia, Missouri, St. Louis, and whatever. And William Burroughs was living there at that time in a house with this guy who was sort of his not caregiver because he wasn't infirmed, but he was William Burroughs,
Yeah, he needed some help.
The guy could get into trouble. He could easily get into trouble if he was left.
He needed supervision.
He needed supervision, and there's this young, very uptight guy. And somebody in town gave us the address to that house. I think it might have been Chuck Mead, who has done a lot of big things in Nashville, as you know. But at the time, he was living in Lawrence, Kansas, and he had a really cool band called the Homestead Grays, and we became friends with those guys. And I'm pretty sure Chuck gave us the address. But one night, we're driving around, and it's trash night, and we see this huge sickle, the kind the Grim Reaper would hold. So we trash picked it, and we decided we need to take this to William Burroughs. We need to go deliver this to William Burroughs. So we went to his house, and we knocked on the door, and he answered, and he was alone. And he invited us in. We handed him the machete, and he followed us outside and was just standing there swinging it and laughing maniacally. And then the caregiver guy showed up and said, "Who are you? What's going on here?" And we had to take off.
That's probably smart. That's spooky, not going to lie.
No, it's pretty great. It was pretty great. So my only experience with William Burroughs was everything I wanted it to be. And no one was actually beheaded this time.
That you know of. You did supply the weapon, though, if it did happen later.
That's true.
All right, digging in the hat here. Let's see what we got. Okay, I think we've touched on him in a few of these, but I'm curious because I'd love to focus a little more on him. He's a very interesting person and someone I think about a lot. Charlie Feathers.
Charlie Feathers. Charlie Feathers, his belief in rockabilly as a living art form that never died, he was a true believer that rockabilly was, I don't know, like impressionistic painting or something. I mean, he would never have put it that way, but that's how I looked at it. He was dedicated to it.
But something foundational.
Yeah, the marriage of rhythm and blues and country, blues and country to create this music was a hybrid that he was always trying to perfect, always working on it and developing it when everyone had left that genre. By 1958, rockabilly was probably not selling or even being released. I don't know if that's the exact year, but you know what I mean.
It's around then. Yeah.
Yeah, by 1960, that was not considered a bankable genre. But Charlie was an artist, and he was a very eccentric guy too. Grew up in Holly Springs, Mississippi, and he was friends with Junior Kimbrough down there, and they played music together. And so Charlie grew up in a very rich black music environment, like a lot of what became popular later, with Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside and all that. That was Charlie's. They were his, childhood guys,
Yeah.
And he got signed to Sun Records early on, and Sam Phillips saw him as a country singer and nothing more, and they butt heads, and Charlie only cut, I think, 4 sides, I think, and was already out of there. And went to these other independent record labels, and they let him do his thing, and thank God they did, because he released some of the coolest records, like Jungle Fever, which I think has Roland James. Actually, I know it's Roland James on lead guitar, which is incredible. Just really, really cool, very eccentric records. And Charlie, he worked as a bouncer for a living. And he was a very intimidating guy. He went gray very early in life and had this amazing gray pompadour with sideburns, and he would wear leisure suits. And he wasn't a big guy, though, was he? He wasn't tall, but he was big. He was intimidating.
Okay.
He was intimidating. He really was intimidating. And he had a presence that was amazing. And Tav Falco of Panther Burns in Memphis, Tav became friends with Charlie. Alex was friends with Charlie, too. And Charlie just loved having people come over to the house, because Rosemary, his wife, worked a day job, and Charlie would be home all day watching wrestling on TV.
As most Memphis residents would be, yeah. They love their wrestling there.
Yeah, or the news. Like CNN was kind of new back then, and Charlie watched it all day long. So Tav brought me over once, and Charlie and I became friends, and Charlie would chew tobacco and spit the juice into this. He had this big gallon plastic milk jug, and he would cut the top off, and it would just be at his feet, and he'd be in his easy chair watching TV, spitting into that thing, and drinking the sweetest iced tea I've ever tasted in my life. I mean, I had one sip, and I thought I was going to go into a diabetic coma. I mean, it was really like sweet tea, the real thing.
Yeah.
And we would watch TV, and it's interesting to think about. Before, I ended up producing a record by him for Elektra Records for None Such. But before that, I would just hang around with him. And sometimes we would play guitars together in the bedroom. He had a spare room there because his kids were grown up and gone, and he had some recording equipment in there and a couple guitars, and we would get together and, just play. But we mainly watched TV, and so I saw 2 things with him. This is really interesting to think about, 2 kind of historic things in American culture. One was the Rodney King thing.
Oh.
I watched that footage and the riots and everything with Charlie Feathers. No, actually, it wasn't the riots. It was just the helicopter footage. And Charlie said, like, man, it's a damn shame. They're just beating the hell out of that guy, man. They're just beating the hell out of that guy. And they showed it over and over again, because 24-hour news, they didn't have much. They hadn't figured it out yet, how to fill time. So it was like a loop. So I remember seeing that with him. And also the Clarence Thomas hearings, I watched them like 4 days of that with Charlie Feathers.
What?
Yeah.
That's nuts, honestly.
Yeah, and then we would go to the Waffle House, and we meet up with some of his buddies and eat and everything. So Charlie trusted me and liked me enough, when Elektra Records, Danny Kahn was the executive producer for some of the records in that series, and I ran into Danny on the road because back then he was senior director of product development at Elektra. Because I met him, he was road managing a Violent Femme, so I already knew him. And he told me about the series. He goes, we're doing this series. You have any suggestions? And I said, yeah, Charlie Feathers. And he goes, oh, man, is he still around? I go, not only is he around, but I know him. And he's the real thing. Charlie is an uncompromising artist. Because what they were trying to do with that series was modern field recordings, basically. And they got Buzu Chavis, I forget who else was in the series. And I
think there was a Jimmy Dale Gilmore or something too.
Yeah, and I thought, well, if you really want to do like modern field recordings, here's a guy from Mississippi who is a pure artist and eccentric and primitive in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
And a great singer, unbelievable singer. And Danny said, we'll put together a proposal. So I went down to Charlie's, and he said, yeah, I want to do it. So I put together a proposal on Elektra. They signed off on it, but I had to bring the contract over to Charlie's for him to sign. And I could never tell, because Rosemary was there too as his advisor, and Charlie didn't really have that great of a grasp of reading or writing, actually, because he grew up, picking cotton and stuff like that. So Rosemary was there to help him read the contract, and the word execute came up. And he goes, because I'm not signing that thing. It means they're going to kill me. and then he says, he goes, what's the name of the record label? I said, None Such. And he goes, man, I ain't going to sign this because it says right there in that contract, there's none such label. He finally signed it. But I couldn't tell if he was messing with me or if he had such a funny, he was sort of like Sam Phillips in the way he would deliver stuff. There was almost kind of like a real, I don't know how to describe that kind of way of speaking. It's kind of like a preacher, but a used car salesman also.
Yeah, it's like philosophical but blustery at the same time.
Yeah, and very Southern, and very Memphis or
Memphis specific, yeah,
Memphis,
for sure.
Memphis, Mississippi, Arkansas, right there, that like 90-mile area. And Charlie had that way of talking. So sometimes you couldn't tell if he was kidding you or if he was dead serious. He was that kind of personality. And we went into the studio. We went to Sam Phillips' recording service and cut the record there with Roland James on guitar and J.M. Van Eaton on drums, Jerry Lee's drummer.
Yeah.
And Stan Kessler on bass, who produced Wooly Bully. Yes. And co-wrote I Forgot to Remember to Forget with Charlie back in the Sundays. And
people forget that Charlie was on that as a writer.
Yeah.
It's a great track.
Well, his name disappeared from it for a while, and then it was put back on. I don't know what happened there. But
it's on now.
Yeah, that's good. And Stan and Charlie got along real well, so I don't think there was any kind of beef. I think it just fell off the paperwork for a while, which is bad.
I'm sure it did. That sort of stuff happens,
Yeah, especially when you have an Elvis cut. That's a bad thing for your pocketbook.
Sure is, yeah.
And we went into the studio and we cut this record, and Charlie's being difficult. He really wants to prove he's boss. At one point, he pulled a gun on me because he wanted the rest of the advance. And I told him that if he shoots me, he's definitely not going to get the rest of the advance. And he said, that makes a lot of sense, son. He put the gun away.
Fair point. Fair
Yeah.
point.
And I remember reporting that to Electra. I was just, to Danny Conn. He goes, do you want us to come down there and get you out of there? I go, no. Nothing's going to happen.
It's just part of it.
It was just part of it, yeah. I don't remember being actually scared. I thought, oh, now I'm part of this kind of story. Now I'm
everyone has a moment where there's a gun in a recording studio. It happens to us all, but this is how it happened to you.
Yeah, and actually producing Charlie Feathers made I don't want to say made a man out of me, but it made a producer out of me because he threw every kind of roadblock at my way psychologically to make it difficult, and we still proceeded and still liked each other at the end. So, but I remember one point he had a guitar. Palmyra Del Rand came down from Jersey to witness some of this, and he fell in love with her and liked to show off around her and stuff, And he go, hey, little.
That's great.
And he had this guitar. I don't even know what kind it was, but it had a bunch of switches, like a lot of unnecessary electronics on it, And he's showing, he goes, come over here, little girl, let me show you something. He goes, see that switch there? That's a violin. See that one there? That's a trumpet. And she's like, really? And he goes, oh yeah, man, you can get so many sounds out of this thing, man. Right there, that's bagpipes. And she was like, wow. And
that's awesome.
it was great. And there was one moment when we were listening to something, and we cut a track, and we were listening to it back to see if we had to do a second take. And I said to Roland, I think you should have used tremolo on your guitar, the gang, 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 where it's cutting a signal.
Yeah.
I think it would really be better with that. And Charlie goes, you don't need that. You don't need that. And he goes, play it. So we played the tape, and he grabs the fader and just starts going, wham, 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 wham. He goes, just do that when you're mixing. I'm like,
You got it.
Yeah. But he was just a magical Charlie Feathers, even the name Feathers. And I think he had Native American blood. I think he was part Cherokee or something. At least that's what he told.
That's all part of that Memphis area too. I mean, I think that's such an interesting place for that sort of music to come out of, because it is such an interesting cultural area. But something funny you once told me about Charlie Feathers, which I think about him because he's a part of my life at Sun, and you said once when he was performing, he had a fan in front of him, and he was complaining that the fan was blowing the words back into his mouth.
Yes. Could you please turn that fan off? It's blowing the words right back in my mouth.
That's so great.
Yeah, that's how Charlie thought, and that's how he perceived what was going on. He was really one of a kind, and from an era that's gone.
Yeah,
you could not. The world could not create a Charlie Feathers now. I mean, these guys like Johnny Cash, Charlie Feathers, all those guys. Pre-television,
right?
They had radios, so they heard radios, and if you go back further before them, they didn't even have that, or Victrolas or anything. They would learn songs from a player piano or something, and the access to any kind of music you want to hear anytime you want, whether you're in your car or walking down the street and all that wasn't available to those guys. They would hear the Grand Ole Opry and maybe nothing else.
Yeah. I think about that a lot too, with the technology of how that transformed their performing too, because when you're recording on a mono track, something that's going to be blasted out of a jukebox on a 45, or blasted on to performing live, for example, on the Opry on AM radio, that's such a different way of performing than mastering something to be played on someone's phone in 2025. And I always find that to be part of the culture of that era of artists, of this is brand new technology that they definitely remember a life without, and how do they mesh that with their performance? It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, not only that, but what they were what they were exposed to when they were coming up as music lovers was narrow. Like Arthur Alexander loved Gene Autry because he would go to the movie theater and see the singing cowboy movies. That was one of his major, and they had a country station where he grew up, so he loved who did the Boogie Woogie Shoeshine Boy, Red Foley, right? I think that's who did that. He loved those kind of singers. That was like his first influence. I don't even, he wasn't even, maybe never heard Billy Eckstine or any of the black artists, maybe even,
Right.
And same thing with Johnny Cash and all those people, and Charlie Feathers, the narrow amount of music that they heard, and they heard a lot of it live. Somebody would be passing a guitar around at a party or something like that, and that's how they learned a song. That's an era that doesn't exist anymore. And to be in the presence of people who came up with that experience always blew my mind from day one. Like the minute I would meet Charlie or any of those people, like, wow, this guy was there before a lot of choices and a lot of technological breakthroughs.
That's like his entire access to music. And I think too, that's really what created regionalism and like musical regionalism, is because literally you couldn't access things that weren't just happening in front of you. It's crazy to think about. And Charlie Feathers is one of those guys. Yeah, he was really the last of the of those guys, and the truest believer in rockabilly of all the rockabilly people. Completely dedicated to it. It was an art form that was always available for new experiments in his mind. It was pretty impressive to be around him. It was cool. It's that time again for a song. We're going to end on a high note. A high note? Woo, okay. Maybe even literally. Let's find out. All right. Digging in the song hat here. Apropos of Nothing. Apropos of Nothing is in there? It's in there. It's in there. Oh, man, that song, it's fairly new, actually, and somebody berated me for this song. They said, how can you be so positive all the time? And I go, have you listened to the lyrics to the whole song? Because it's about a temporary feeling. like I know it's going to pass. I'm from New Jersey. Good things do not stay. So you're always waiting for the other foot to fall. Yeah. Well, I wrote this song because I was walking down the street and I was like, wow, I'm in a really good mood. Really good mood. Like, I love life. And I was thinking,
this ain't going to last.
Why?
Exactly. And so I wanted to write a song about I feel good apropos of nothing, because I couldn't even think. I was trying to think, okay, what is it? What piece of news came in my life, or anything? And I wasn't exposed to anything to make me feel that good. And I was happy about it and also very suspicious of it. So I wrote this song about that feeling. It happens to all of us. And here it is. I feel good, apropos of nothing. I feel good, and I don't care why. I feel good, apropos of nothing. And there ain't nothing gonna ruin this sunny sky. I feel nice, oh so nice. Twice as nice as I did last night. I woke up on the right side of the bed, with no bad thoughts, troubles, or worries in my head. I feel good, apropos of nothing. I feel good, and I don't care why. I don't need to know. I feel good, apropos of nothing. And there ain't nothing gonna ruin this sunny sky. Guitar. Huh. I'm gonna ride this feeling. I'm gonna ride this feeling as long as it lasts. I feel fine, oh so fine, like country wine, aged with time. And I'm gonna drink from this here cup till the moon goes down and the morning sun comes up. Everybody, I feel good, apropos of nothing, apropos of nothing. I feel good, and I don't care why. Oh no, I feel good, apropos of nothing, apropos of nothing. And there ain't nothing gonna ruin this sunny sky. There ain't nothing gonna ruin this sunny sky. There ain't nothing gonna ruin this sunny sky. Woo! Yes, that's it.
You have just enjoyed another installment of Straight from the Hat with Ben Vaughn. To learn more about the names drawn from the hat for this episode, please visit straightfromthehat.com. Don't forget to tell a friend about this podcast. And please, subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice.